Welcome to the Unpackin' It podcast with Bryce Johnson. It's a show that unpacks sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Enjoy inspiring conversations and thought-provoking interviews. You'll hear stories from people that will inspire, challenge, and encourage you. Now, from the Unpackin' It studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, uniting sports fans everywhere, here is Bryce Johnson.
Welcome to the Unpackin' It podcast, where we unpack sports, faith, and life. I'm Bryce Johnson in the studio on a Monday following the Super Bowl. What a weekend it was. The Kansas City Chiefs are the champs, and we will hear from Unpackin' It producer and Kansas City Chiefs diehard Chris Allison in just a moment. But let me just start with this, just so you know where I'm coming from today. Man, I had a wild Super Bowl weekend. We had the big Super Saturday event on Saturday, and so interviewed a panel of guys, and we're actually going to share that event with you through the podcast. And so we were able to record that event, and so be looking out for that. It was awesome. LaVon Kirkland, Corey Miller, and Andy Lee, and just a huge crowd at this church in Charlotte. And so we had a blast there. But man, I was worn out with all the Super Bowl activities, and so glad to be here on the show today as we recap the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about the big storylines moving forward. We'll touch on the commercials. There were a few that I really enjoyed, and a couple that I was scratching my head watching them during the game. We'll touch on the halftime show, which was quickly turned from in my house, and then we'll wrap up the show with a thought about faith and how it relates to the Super Bowl. But let's say hello to Chris Allison here in the studio. Chris, man, you've been waiting a long time, lifelong fan of the Chiefs. Today, you're part of the Super Bowl champions as a fan. How you feeling?
Oh man, what an unbelievable night it was. Super Bowl 4 to 54. It's a big gap for not being even in the game. And so, as I mentioned, I think last time I was on, at 47 years old, I've never seen my team in the Super Bowl. And then that changed yesterday. And, Bryce, it was a family event for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone else.
Did the neighbors
over.
come?
No. I had the family. Everyone, you have a large family, so everyone's sitting around the couch except me. I'm standing. I stood the whole game. So I'm either standing behind the couch or I'm on my knees, kind of leaning on the couch when things were really getting, a little scary or exciting. So, I acted, I got up this morning and I'm like, man, I was a fool to my family. I'm like, God, they're probably going, what is this guy doing? I'm jumping up and down and I'm screaming. And I was so into the game, especially the last 7 minutes of the game, because the first 3.5 quarters didn't really look very good for Kansas City, and you had a 20-10 San Francisco lead, and for a long time it sure looked like the 49ers were going to be the champions. So
it sure did. And just from an overall game standpoint, and I was pulling for the Chiefs, but it was rooting for a good game,
sure.
Relatively neutral, and I felt like the game was good up until the last 7 minutes. It was good. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It wasn't that exciting. We weren't getting a ton of big moments, but we weren't getting what we saw last year, which was just like punt after punt after punt. And last year's game was hard to watch for me. I like a little bit more offense. And so this year we at least saw some movement, but it just felt like neither team could really get over the hump. Or even when San Francisco was up 20-10, like it felt like they were in control, but it wasn't like they were lighting it up or dominating by any means. Both teams turned the ball over throughout the game. And so as I was thinking today, though, what was the difference in the game? It really was Patrick Mahomes. Like I've heard some takes on, Williams, the running back, was great, and he should have won the MVP. And sure, he got into the end zone twice. But what it came down to at the very end, when Kansas City needed to score, Mahomes led the team. He kept them believing. And even for you as a fan, you had to have felt like we're still in this. We have Mahomes as the quarterback. He's going to bring us back. And even though it wasn't a an eye-popping game for him like we've seen him play over the last couple of years. He was steady. He was calm. And when you needed him at the end, he made the big throw to Tyreek Hill. That opened everything up. The most excited I got was the Travis Kelce touchdown. They finally broke through. There they go. They got a touchdown in the second half. That was big. And I was excited for Kelce to score. So those were my kind of overall thoughts. I thought the game was a very solid Super Bowl. Not necessarily the most memorable Super Bowl, but anytime you see a comeback, that's exciting.
Absolutely. And, Patrick did not have, his best game. In fact,
no.
He didn't play very well at all for much of the game. He was not comfortable. There was
their defense was awesome. The 49ers defense was awesome.
And then I thought he was just a little bit hesitant. Like, he never felt comfortable, like, in a pocket setting.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff that we were seeing were underneath passes, and they weren't stretching the field at all in the first 3.5 quarters. And I know the commentators, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they're even saying, when are we going to see that Chief team that we've seen throughout the playoffs and throughout this season? I thought defensively that, when it was MVP time, I thought, first of all, to myself, I bet this isn't Mahomes because he didn't play very well until the last 7 minutes. So I'm thinking, well, if it's not him, who is it?
Yeah.
And Damian Williams came to mind. Rashad Breeland, I thought, was the MVP of the first quarter.
Yeah, that was big.
He's He's from the state of South Carolina, and I was kind of pulling for him to have a good game, and he had a great first quarter. I thought Chris Jones defensively, the defensive tackle who batted some balls down and put some really good interior pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought he had a great game and could have been up for consideration. But, yeah, it's hard for me to look back now and argue that they made the wrong choice with Mahomes simply because, you're right, even at 20-10 with 7 minutes to go. And my family thinks I'm crazy, but I'm sitting there going, hey, this is going to happen. I kept saying it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. In fact, I said to my wife with 7 minutes to go, I said, wouldn't it be crazy? I said, we're the team that could do this. What if we win by 10? I mean, this could happen. And then the game ended, and she looked at me, and she goes, you kind of called that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she reminded me that I made that statement. So
that's awesome.
It was to see Patrick stay as steady as he was.
Yeah.
In a game that's so huge, we can't even
and he's
imagine.
So young.
And he is so young. What is he, 24?
That's unbelievable.
It's only his third season, but just his second season as a starter. And, he's already got an MVP for the Super Bowl. He's got a league MVP. He's got a Super Bowl ring. And, I'm like, now what? Where do you go from here? But what an incredible start to his career.
Yeah, he's so easy to root for. And, I think that the NFL's in just great hands when you think about him, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. The next generation of quarterbacks is really exciting to watch. And Mahomes, he is the best right now. He's proven it. It's cool that Lamar Jackson won the unanimous MVP, and he was the best quarterback during the regular season. But Mahomes, for all 3 games to come back and win games the way that the Chiefs did, and you could argue, why don't they start stronger? But in many ways, it's harder to come back. And so to overcome the emotions of, we're down in a game, and what are we going to do? No, they that doesn't derail the Chiefs, and that's what's cool about them.
The other thing I love about his game is his ability to, nothing's there. Now I find lanes, run the football, and he had a few first down runs yesterday that were critical. He took a couple pops that scared me.
What was that play toward the end zone?
Right, exactly.
What was he doing?
I don't know. I think he just got lost.
I had the flashback of John Elway, and I was waiting for
the flip,
the helicopter spin. And that was scary too, especially fumbled it out of bounds.
And coming out of cost him a first down too.
That was bad.
But coming out of college, I don't know collegiately at Texas Tech how much scrambling and things like that he did. I know he didn't run a very good 40 at the combine, and I don't think when they drafted Patrick that they were like, oh man, this is another great weapon with his feet, And boy, that's just another aspect of his game that's really developed.
Yeah, he's probably more along the lines of Russell Wilson, where they're not necessarily looking to run, but they can and they will. And he was a threat, and his runs were big last night. Yeah. They weren't often, but when he did run, they were key in extending drives and setting up that ultimate touchdown on the play we were talking about. So the one big storyline going in was get Andy Reid the Super Bowl win. And to think last night, man, he's been coaching for 21 years and finally gets that Super Bowl. And I think everybody was happy for him. And I was thinking back, though, in all of sports, how many championship teams was the main storyline, the head coach winning?
Yeah.
And so I came up with a list, and I'm curious your thoughts on this because he's right up there. So in the NFL, I think when Tony Dungy won with the Colts, it was a lot about Dungy and the first black coach, and so that was major. Just the college football championship with Ed Orgeron, there was a big push to see him win and kind of his story of how he ended up at LSU, and he just represented that university so well and who he was. I thought years ago maybe Texas, Mac Brown, kind of. Dick Vermeil with the Rams when they won. He came back and was an older coach. When Villanova in college basketball, Jay Wright.
Sure.
Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams in college basketball. I think those names, it was, oh, man, we're so glad this coach finally got a championship. And then Pete Carroll with Seattle, kind of, but because he won at USC, I'm not sure that it was as much about him. So anyway, those are just some names I thought was interesting because you watched the celebration last night, the Gatorade bath, and everybody wanted to hear from Andy Reid, and he was kind of the hero. But he kept pushing it aside too. It's all about the players, all about Mahomes, and that was cool too.
Yeah,
but
no, it's a good list. It's the opposite side of that's like Barry Switzer, right? He's not on that list, right? Like
Nobody wanted
you
him.
go to Oklahoma, and then you go to Dallas and win a Super Bowl. So yeah, I noticed you kept him off the list, and I get that. Yeah, man, it's funny because Andy Reid is like look. I've always pulled for the guy. If you're a diehard Chiefs fan, he takes a lot of heat for game management, right? Clock management. And I try to stay away from that kind of stuff, although we can talk about Shanahan a little bit if you want. But I didn't realize how popular he was. I had so many people over the last 2 weeks that aren't Chiefs fans but came up to me and said, I'm pulling for the Chiefs because of Andy Reid.
Isn't that interesting?
And I'm like, wow, okay, I get that. I didn't realize he was that popular. And then, you see they had the coaching tree during the pregame show and all of the influences that he's had on coaches throughout the league. And I think it's easy to see how well respected he is in football. And, with league-wide, I think everyone loves a little Andy Reid.
That's right.
So, he is just kind of like one of us, right? He's just, dude, he's smashing double cheeseburgers and, he's just a good dude, right? He's just one of us. And I just think, it's pretty cool to see his popularity, and I'm glad he got him a ring.
Now that he's a Super Bowl champ, will he be allowed to wear his Hawaiian shirts on the sideline? That's what I want to see. That's the next level. So once you become a champ, you should be allowed to do that.
And even the Chiefs came into the stadium yesterday, a lot of them wearing those Hawaiian shirts, which shows, that's the kind of love they have for him, And
that's hilarious.
So pretty cool.
Yeah, and to think about his longevity, I think we respect that as fans. When you can stick around, because think about how many coaches have had the opportunity to become a head coach. They only last a couple of years. They don't always get another chance. But for him to have the sustained success in Philadelphia, maybe it didn't end great, but he gets picked up right away with the Chiefs, and then as soon as he got there, all he's done is win. Yeah. Now, they didn't always win in the playoffs until finally this year they broke through, but still, he built a winning tradition there in Kansas City the last, how long has he been there, 10 years?
Yeah.
And
I talked about this last time I was on, but it's, from 1969 – the end of that season when they won the Super Bowl IV, all the way up through, let's just go through this season. Up to this season, I think Kansas City had 4 playoff wins. So that's 4 playoff wins in 47 years. Okay, so now, they got 3 this year in a Super Bowl championship. So this is why, I couldn't imagine it's worth speaking right now what it's like in Kansas City. They're getting ready for their parade. When the Royals won the World Series in 2015, they put over 1 million people in along the parade route. And this will probably be bigger, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
So
I would think so for sure.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of the other big takeaways from last night, just listening and watching different feedback or discussions based on the game. A couple of things. The refs did not affect this game one way or the other.
Right.
The George Kittle play could have gone either way. When I watched it, like, oh, nice catch. Oh, they push off, and then they threw the flag. And I wasn't surprised. Then when I watched the replay, I was like, you didn't have to throw that flag.
Yeah.
But ultimately, was that the difference in the game? I don't think so.
Yeah, and he had two push-offs, and I didn't look. As I watched the game, I'm not sitting there, I thought that was probably, I know if that would have happened to my team, I'd have been upset, right? Because you see that play a lot, right?
I know. Because they didn't call it Kyle Rudolph when he scored with the Vikings,
right.
And then they did call this for Kittle.
Yes, exactly. And I've got a buddy who tells me every time I talk to him about Travis Kelce that all Kelce ever does is push off, right? and then it kind of went the other way in this game. So.
But to me that wasn't. I'm not going to blame the refs for that. And then same with the Damian Williams touchdown. That could have gone either way. Yeah. I think if you were a 49ers fan, you probably thought, he didn't get in. Mm-hmm. But they were so close anyway. I think the Chiefs would have scored. So I don't think that was the difference. So I'm actually thankful as a somewhat neutral fan, but I was pulling for the Chiefs, that the refs didn't affect the game.
Very low penalty number 2, which I like. I mean, I think, was there 3 penalties on each team, maybe 4? I mean, just a really, that wasn't the storyline.
No, and I don't think it was a sloppy game either, even though maybe Mahomes didn't play great, and there were some turnovers, but I didn't find it to be sloppy. Usually if it's a bunch of offsides, a bunch of, pass interference, that's when it starts getting really sloppy, or even, it wasn't even a chippy game, really. Yeah. I didn't see too much back and forth.
No. I did find it interesting because it would have been a huge play because there was a third down, fourth quarter play when Garoppolo got hit right as he was exiting the field.
Yeah,
and I don't know that they ever even replayed that. I don't remember
when he was throwing it.
So he runs over to the sidelines. I think he ended up running the ball, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But it was right on the edge, and he gets popped right on the San Francisco sideline.
That's right.
And it would have been obviously it was that was third down and long. They did not convert. Now it's fourth down. Now they punt. But if they call that, which they could have, I'd like to. I don't even know that they
You're right.
It.
They quickly moved on from that.
They moved on. Yeah,
they did.
But I'd like to see that one again, and because that's another call that went Kansas City's way. I thought there were several times on the sidelines where they did they just let things kind of go, like not like borderline stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a close to a late hit kind of thing. And they kept the flag in the pocket.
Yeah, they stayed out of it. Yeah, to me, stay out of it. Yeah. And then also, I don't – a lot of times the Super Bowl feels like it drags on. Mm-hmm. I thought this had a nice flow and pace to the game. And I'm not sure exactly what time it ended, but it didn't feel like it was a 5-hour long game. It was like, it's already halftime and that kind of thing.
Nope.
A lot of people are blaming – everybody always likes to find blame. Okay, why did the 49ers lose today? I really do lean toward the Chiefs won it. Mahomes was the difference. He just put them on their back and said, hey, let's go win this game. Yep. They stayed calm. That's why they won. Kyle Shanahan, they didn't run the ball like they should have. They should have run out the clock and all that. So I read this article, Bill Barnwell on ESPN.com. If you think that Kyle Shanahan is to blame, read the article and you'll realize he basically went through each play and the play call, and it basically made sense. There was only like one play call that was kind of debatable. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, that wasn't the problem. What happened was Garoppolo didn't hit his receivers.
Yeah.
It came down to Patrick Mahomes was better than Jimmy G. And for most of the game, Jimmy G was actually outplaying Mahomes because at one point he was like 18 of 21, Garoppolo was, and I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty strong. Maybe there were dump-offs here or there, but he was playing well. But when it mattered most, Jimmy G missed. Remember, he was like 2 yards past, I think it was Sanders. Yep. That would have been a touchdown. So that's the difference toward the end of the game. And whereas Mahomes hit Tyreek Hill.
That's right.
And that changed things.
And that's the difference, right? I mean, I heard that argument earlier today. You want to really find the difference in the game. Patrick made the throw when he had to. Jimmy didn't.
Yep.
And that would have been his shining moment.
Oh, it would have been huge.
Albeit they're still – then the Chiefs get the ball back, right? And Patrick's on the field with 1 minute and 15 to go. That'd have been fun to watch.
Oh, man.
that would have been crazy.
I know.
But, it was – I'm thrilled. I'm just so happy that it went down like it did.
That's right. Because I envisioned the other scenario because I'm looking for the storylines. I'm just wanting a great finish. And so the comeback was the Chiefs aspect of it. It was like, okay, cool, they're making the comeback. Well, then when Jimmy G and the 49ers came out on offense to go down and kind of win the game, it was the thought of, well, here's Jimmy G's moment,
That's right.
his Tom Brady type moment to become a Super Bowl champion and all that, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so that was his chance, and I, after watching the game, I think Jimmy G is in that category of kind of Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, like good quarterbacks. And even though Joe Flacco is one, to me they're not elite quarterbacks. They're not the great quarterbacks. They're that next tier. I think Jimmy G will have a nice long career with San Francisco, and he may even win one. Like they might win one. Mahomes is in another category, and I see Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson in that category as the pillars of the NFL moving forward. And I think Jimmy G will be a guy. He'll be in the mix, and he'll play 10-plus years, most likely all with the 49ers, and they'll be in the playoffs and all that kind of thing. But when the game's on the line, I'm not there yet with him thinking he's gonna do it. Here goes Jimmy G.
Right.
Even though he has had some they showed the stat. I think he's had like 7 fourth-quarter comebacks. I'm just, as a fan watching, I'm not there yet to where I'm believing in him, whereas I think we're already there after 2 starting seasons with Mahomes.
I kept watching at the end of the first half, wondering, does Shanahan believe in him? Like,
definitely.
There's
definitely not.
There's 1:48 to go in the half. Chiefs are punting, and man, I'm kind of calling the game, with my family. I'm like, they'll take timeout here, and then they show John Lynch, and he's in the booth, trying to call timeout, and then Shanahan just lets the clock roll, and the Chiefs ran down another 30 seconds and didn't allow San Francisco an opportunity to score there. That surprised me. That was probably the biggest coaching surprise that I saw in this game. Yeah,
I always lean toward if there's still time on the clock in the first half, you always want to try to score.
Yeah.
I never understand why people just give that time away.
Yeah.
Or don't
with 3 timeouts.
Or aren't aggressive enough. Yeah, to go into halftime with 3 timeouts or whatever, even if you have one, you got to utilize those the right way.
Exactly.
So I'm always blown away when that's the case. The other storyline going into the game was the battle of the tight ends, and I love both tight ends, and even watching a lot of the pregame, it was fun. There was one piece that was Rob Gronkowski, Tony Gonzalez, Kelsey, and Kittle all sitting around talking. It was awesome. Then seeing Greg Olsen, he was a part of the festivities, and Gronk throughout the coverage. And so I like seeing the tight ends showcased. But Kelsey had a better game than Kittle, so I would put that as a difference maker as well. Kelsey had some key moments throughout that game. Always reliable, and then, of course, getting into the end zone. And Kittle had a chance in the first half, but got called for the penalty, and so that was another key difference. So those are kind of my thoughts on the game. Would love to hear your thoughts as a listener. You can send us an email, bryce@unpackingit.com. And then, of course, the big question is, will the Chiefs be back? Will they be able to create some level of dynasty moving forward? And I just have to always go back. Brett Favre won kind of early, mid his career. You probably would have thought he would have been back, and we didn't see him. Aaron Rodgers, same kind of thing. Dan Marino, of course, early in his career, even though they lost. So there's no guarantees, but I like what the Chiefs have done. I think the fact that Eric Bieniemy has stayed in Kansas City, maybe Andy Reid only coaches a couple more seasons. He's got a Super Bowl, and then being able to hand it off to Bieniemy, he might be able to take this team further and allow this to be a dynasty-type franchise moving forward. So that's something to consider, too.
I'd like to know. I don't quite have a great grasp on Bieniemy and what his role right now is with the team.
True.
So I feel like Andy Reid is your play caller. He scripts it all. And so I don't know. I mean, Bieniemy is trying to, he's certainly sought after as a head coach. He's interviewed, 5, 6, 7 times. Hasn't landed that job yet. But all indications are he might very well be a great head coach in the NFL. So I'll leave you with this. But as I was watching the game last night, right at the the last 6 minutes, and things are starting to go right and go my way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I caught myself. I caught myself all of a sudden. I wasn't when I was yelling at the TV, right, and cheering, and I caught myself. I wasn't like yes Tyreek, or throw it to Tyreek, or throw it to Kelsey, and all of a sudden I was saying numbers. So I'm sitting and watching the game, and I'm like, throw it to 10, 87, I don't know. And then I have no idea. Then as the game kind of wrapped up, I thought to myself, where was that? Where'd that come from? like,
That's hilarious.
I have no idea. So
you were losing it.
I was losing it, Bryce.
I love it.
I was losing it.
I love that you're a 47-year-old child.
Yes, that's the way it was.
That's what sports do.
Yes.
That's why we love sports. It brings out the child in us,
right.
and especially when that fandom, was built when we were young.
Yeah.
So
it's too bad. My son, who you've met, he was, in fact, great job with Saturday's event. Super
thanks,
Saturday
Thanks
event.
for being there, and glad Ian was there.
Oh, yeah. We have, it's great dad-son building, and certainly encourage everyone listening, if you're in and around the Charlotte area, attend these events. Bring your son, get involved in fellowship and sports fans that follow Jesus, right?
That's right.
And I'll tell you this, you'll leave these events feeling a lot better maybe than you did coming in, right?
Yeah,
I always leave with a great smile, and Ian and I had a great time. But so Sunday, this happens every once in a while, he got sick.
Oh, no.
So to the point that he could not watch the game. So
At all?
At all. He was out. It was done.
Man.
It was just headache, and, he was sick.
Oh.
So this morning, I kept him home from school. And I get up with him this morning, and he says, "Who won the game?" They had no idea.
Oh, poor Ian.
I said, "I'll tell you what. I said, I want to watch the fourth quarter anyway. It ain't good." So I said, "Let's watch the fourth quarter together again." So we watched the fourth quarter. And the whole time he's thinking it didn't happen.
Oh, man,
so
you tricked him.
I got to at least see him get excited.
Right?
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Well, that's great that he was able to watch the fourth quarter not knowing.
Not knowing. Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
So he must have been going nuts.
Yeah.
And you got to relive it.
And I'm playing games, I'm like, oh, this is not good. So.
Oh, I love it. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a special moment. He's 11, 12?
11, yeah.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, last thing was we wrap things up Super Bowl wise, and then we'll do a faith thought. Commercials. I'm not like Mr. Commercial, but I always at least keep an eye on. And I actually watch, and you know what I think about? I think about the creative team sitting in a boardroom coming up with these ideas and then thinking that somebody approved this commercial.
Right.
So on one end, I go, oh, man, someone really creative came up with that. Good for them. That's a clever idea. And then on the other side, I go, I can't believe they approved that. They first sat around and said, yeah, great idea. Let's run with it. Let's make this commercial. Then they finish producing it, and then they go, let's put that on the air, and let's spend $5 million per 30 seconds to put this on the air. So but let me tell you the ones that I liked. I liked Groundhog Day, Bill Murray, the Jeep commercial. I have a Jeep, so I like Jeep. The Jason Momoa, where he takes all his muscles off when he gets home.
Right.
Thought that was hilarious and clever. Getting him to do that was good. I actually like the Snickers commercial. Right. Snickers solves everything. And then having the selfie couple fall in was hilarious. The Smart Pack Hyundai. For one, it was a clever commercial, but then the fact that that's technology out there, because I have a tough time parking now. I used to not struggle. Actually, when I used to have a Hyundai, I could park great. I had a small little Hyundai. Parking was never an issue. And now I've got a Jeep Compass, and it's harder to park. So anyway, the fact that this technology, you can get out of your car and then it parks in tight spaces.
I love that.
Oh, my goodness. That's brilliant because those parking spaces seem to get smaller and smaller anyways.
Right.
Like every day it seems like they're getting smaller. So that was a good one. The Tom Brady, of course, was classic.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually would have loved if he would have announced whatever decision. He should have done it through a commercial.
Yeah, I just signed a new contract with New England, something like that. Or those were good. I liked the woodchucks. What theme was that? Remember they had like 4 or 5 different woodchuck commercials that they were.
That Geico? Or?
Yeah, it was Geico. Yes, yeah. So I kind of dug those.
Okay.
There were like a series of 4 or 5 of them. I dug those. Who I thought was really clever, and I'm not a big wing guy. I like boneless wings.
I like boneless wings too.
I like boneless wings, but I'm not
which
a big.
Maybe get ripped for, but.
So the Pizza Hut commercials I thought were pretty good, where they showed their size of wing, and then the competitor's size of wing.
Oh wow!
And
I missed those.
Okay, so so they say our lawyers told us that we couldn't claim that our wings are 25% bigger than the competition. So we got new lawyers.
That's good. That's good. I'll have to look out for that one.
It. Yeah, pretty good.
And then the Reese's Take 5. What have you been living under a rock? Was your head been in the sand?
Okay, I don't know if I saw that one.
That was very clever. And I think I've had the Reese's Take 5, but it's been years since, and so that makes me actually want to go have one.
Yeah, that's been a long time. That's.
But they basically it was. If you don't know about the Reese's Take 5, you must be living under a rock.
Okay,
so they had a guy living under a rock. So that was pretty good. And I actually liked the T-Mobile Anthony Anderson commercial where his mom kept calling him. So I talked to my mom a lot, so I resonated with that one. But she kept calling him saying, hey, the 5G works here. It works here.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
All right, now to the ones that I did not like.
You didn't get these.
Now, the Pepsi commercial where it looked like it was a Coke and then they covered it with black.
Right.
It didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
If like Martin Scorsese seems to be a legend, like a legend director.
Yeah.
For him to do that silly commercial with Jonah Hill.
Right.
That fell flat. I felt like a waste of talent in that commercial. Oh my goodness. The worst commercial of the night was the Squarespace Winona Ryder.
Right.
What in the world?
I don't know.
That was bizarre.
Yes.
And not funny.
No.
That was probably the one where I'm thinking they sat around let's go get Winona Ryder.
Yes.
Or they probably said, let's go get a number of actresses. Right. They landed on Winona Ryder. And then they had to go with that, which was rough. And then, all right, for one, I absolutely love Cheetos. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Sure. I love cheesy poofs. Delicious. So now they came out with I guess they're Cheeto popcorn or something. So I'm all for the product. But MC Hammer, can't touch this.
Right.
I think it's time to retire the song. I think we're done with it.
Yeah.
It seems like he's in a different one every year. What was it, like Sticky Notes or something last year? I forget what the product was.
Right.
It was something last year or the year before. Come on, MC.
That song was hot when I was 89, 90, 91.
So long.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it's like every year it's still going. He's still making money on that.
I mean, good for him, but it feels desperate, and I can't get behind the can't touch this.
Yeah.
Even though, in theory, it's clever, I just feel like the song is overdone, and I can't get behind that.
It's lost creativity.
And then the other one, Jimmy Fallon, John Cena. I like both those guys. The commercial just didn't do it for me. I actually thought Jimmy Fallon should have been in the Smot Pock.
Oh, yeah.
Why wasn't he in that one? Because they had his old SNL partner, Rachel Dratch. Remember, they always did that skit together. I think they were Boston people. So I felt like he was missing from that commercial.
I like that commercial. Yeah, I like that a lot. All of the Boston accents.
Yes. So, those were funny. That was the Smot Pock Hyundai. So those are some of my thoughts on the commercials. Would love to know your thoughts as a listener. You can send me an email, Bryce@unpackingit.com. And final thought today, and we didn't talk too much about this, but the Tyreek Hill long pass, I guess it was like 44 yards. They're in the fourth quarter. That really was the turning point for the Chiefs. And like you said earlier, we kept waiting for that big play from the Chiefs. The announcers, I think anybody watching, were like, when are they going to throw the ball down the field? Take a chance. Go for it. And so that ended up really opening things up for them, and they needed that big play, and they came through. And so the thought for us today, and I talked about this at Super Saturday as well, all of us have turning points in life. There are pivotal moments, which is always hard for me to say. Pivotal moments. I can't say it 3 times fast. And ultimately, these are decisions. Whether it's in a game, it changes the outcome. It changes kind of the course of the fourth quarter for the Chiefs. And you think back to the pivotal moments for the Chiefs, even as they built this team, trading up to get Patrick Mahomes, bringing in Andy Reid to be their new head coach, and all the different draft picks that they have. They were all turning points for their franchise, making the decision to move on from Alex Smith and go with Patrick Mahomes. And so in life, what are our own turning points? And the first and most important one is, when did we decide, and if we haven't yet, decided to follow Jesus, to say, I'm no longer going to go my own way. I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to turn my life toward him and go his direction, because ultimately that will change the course of our life. It'll change our relationships. It will change the decisions that we make, and it will change our eternity. So that's the turning point. And then every day we face key moments throughout our day that we either respond one way or the other, that we either go for it on a big play or we play scared, or we live scared, we live with fear, we live with worry. And what was so cool about the Chiefs yesterday, that play, they went for it. They weren't going to play scared. They knew that time was running out and they needed to make a play. And so I think there are moments for us that we can either say, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to step out in faith, or I'm going to kind of remain still and not go for it. And I think if we trust the Lord in those moments to give us the strength and the power that we need to go for the turning point, to go for the pivotal moment, and the outcomes will end up being so much more fruitful when we trust in Him and don't lean on our own understanding and really lean into Him to make those key decisions and to follow Him in key ways throughout our life. And so I hope that's an encouragement for you today. And so as you think back to some of the key moments in that Super Bowl and recognize that they do make a difference, that key moments in our life that when we're faced with the decision to either take the job, leave the job, become the husband that we know we can be, the father that we know we can be, and to let go of maybe it's sin in our life, and to turn from it and say, hey, this is the turning point. I'm not going to mess around with that area of my life. And so those are the key moments. And so what is that turning point for us, and what path are we choosing each day? So that's my thought, and the devotional will come out a little bit later today, so it's a little fresh on my mind as I'm working through it. But Chris, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and your childhood team. It's exciting, man. Happy for you.
Absolutely, my man. Thanks for having me on again today.
Oh, absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to have you in studio. And we'll be back this week for some awesome podcasts. Again, we'll release the Super Saturday panel discussion, and I think you'll love that. We'll also we have Matt Stover, former Baltimore Ravens kicker, scheduled to join the show. And the next couple of weeks, we got some more guests lined up as well. So be looking out for those. I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that He died on the cross for my sins. He was resurrected. And by faith, I have been saved because of His grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast.
For more information about the show, our events, and other resources, visit unpackinit.com. That's UNPACKINIT.com. We hope you are encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. To support our show and Unpacking It Ministries with a financial gift, visit unpackinit.com/donate. We look forward to unpacking sports, faith, and life with you again next week.